And welcome to the All Things Quizzy Monday discussion. Tonight I'll have a few people joining me. I'll have Michael Cohn from Imperial College's team. He's captain this year. I'll have Lindsay Baumeister, who is on the current series of Only Connect. We had her on last week and she was so good, we're having her back. And we've got Brendan Curtis, who was one of the erstwhile athletes on Only Connect. And I'm just about to welcome Brendan to the stream. Brendan, welcome.
Hello.
Your first time on our live discussion. Brendan, for people who haven't met you, don't know you, you were on Only Connect as part of the erstwhile athletes back in 2000.
Short-lived appearance.
So have you done either of Mastermind or University Challenge, or is that your kind of sole performance on the Quizzy Mondays front?
No, never done. I've toyed with the idea of Mastermind, but no, never actually got round to it. And no, wasn't ever on University Challenge, sadly.
Okay, well, what you did win the other year was Britain's Brightest Family, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was hilarious.
So you do have title-winning credentials.
There we go. You're very kind.
Just welcoming Michael to the stream. Hi, Michael.
Hi, how's it going?
Delighted to have Michael with us. Michael is, as I said, the captain of the Imperial University Challenge team this series. So really good to have you on board. For anybody who's not watched one of these before, you can type comments in the YouTube comments and we will see them. I'll be able to bring them up on screen and then we can use them as part of our discussion. So feel free to chip in if you've got anything that you want to say about tonight's shows, Mastermind, Only Connect or University Challenge, whatever you want. And, you know, you've got some real serious TV experience here with us, Brendan and Michael and Lindsay when she joins us. So, you know, if there's anything you've ever wanted to ask about Only Connect, University Challenge, whatever, this is a good opportunity to ask that. So, guys, what did we think of tonight? Perhaps maybe if we start with University Challenge, which because we've got serious expertise here in Michael's front, but I think because I was a little bit taken by surprise that it was going to be a celebrity one, but nonetheless it was quite entertaining, albeit very one-sided. I noted a comment that was made on Twitter where Alfred Searles said, Episode 1, Christmas University Challenge, also known as the Christmas Massacre. So I think that pretty much described it, and we welcome Lindsay. But Michael, what did you make of it, based on kind of, you've been on the serious side of the fence. How did you view the entertainment perspective on University Challenge tonight?
I think it's quite fun. I enjoy the Christmas series, especially as it's less stressful because, of course, especially going into the next few weeks where I've met the contestants for pretty much all the matches coming up. And so you're either watching your friends on it or you're watching yourself on it. This time it's people who everyone knows. And I think it's incredible what they're doing because, of course, when we go on quiz shows, we kind of sign up for it. We volunteer ourselves and we probably do some prep for it. But they're just kind of, I don't think they realize what we do. And then they're sort of thrown in at the deep end. And I don't know.
That's always, I guess, a lot of people will think, how do you prepare for something like University Challenge, where you could be asked about anything, highbrow, lowbrow, you know, could be absolutely anything. You've got 4 people on your team. Do you divide up areas of expertise, or do you select the team based on those different areas of expertise?
I think it's different in different universities, but so some universities, especially like smaller Oxford and Cambridge colleges, won't necessarily have people who've been on the show before. So you'll have someone who's really keen and they'll form a team around themselves. Or they'll try and find people. But at the larger universities like Imperial and Durham, who you regularly see on, I would suspect definitely at Imperial's end, it's the previous teams who pick a team of 4 that they can see working well together. And then my team kind of sat down and divided stuff up. Actually, we looked at past years and saw what came up. And we thought, well, none of us really know very much about pop music, but it hardly ever comes up, so we'll be fine. And of course, I'm glad to see that we're wrong, but of course, it doesn't really help us that this season's been a lot more broad in terms of the canon. But yeah, so I took literature, for example, and other people took geography and history.
Because Imperial being a science-based university, then that really is going to tend, towards your strong suit being engineering, science, maths, that sort of thing, isn't it?
Well, you'd think, but actually, probably out of all the subjects remaining, apart from pop music, biology is probably our worst thing. Yeah. We're absolutely clueless.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Lindsay, welcome. You were here last week, and we didn't scare you off, so good to have you back. Oh, we've got a comment, so I'll just bring that up. So Grace, and Grace was with us last week, so welcome back, Grace. Study almost everything and pray. That's how I prepare for everything, really. So, well, I'm not sure that God intervenes in quizzes, but it's worth a try, isn't it? Let's face it. But yeah, Lindsay, what did you think of tonight's quiz action, particularly Only Connect, I guess, not being in it this week? Was it refreshing to be able to sit back and just enjoy?
I think when I watched this week, the main thing I thought was, thank God they weren't our questions. I think there were some real stinkers this week. And the walls, I mean, I got 2 or 3 of the groups on either wall, but I don't think I would have got the 4. I think I'd have known what they were when they came up. They just felt like absolute stinkers. So I don't envy them at all. But I have met both those teams, and they were great people, and it was hard to then see how hard it was when you've met them. It's a lot easier to watch them struggle when you haven't met them. But yeah, I was really glad it wasn't us.
Yeah, Brendan. Obviously, you played the show. How did you find it? You feel it's changed, or it's still very much the same show as when you were on?
I think it's in essence as it's ever been. Obviously, different writing team is gonna bring a slightly different feel to things. But yeah, there were a few. I think, like every week, there's a few where if it just hits a switch in your brain and you get a question really early doors, and then other ones you think, God, how did you know that one? Or again, are absolutely nowhere near it. I thought, are we allowed to spoil on this?
Yeah,
in terms of questions. So I thought the ends in A, ends in B, ends in C, ends in D, I would just nowhere near that at all. Absolutely nowhere near it.
We would have been really mad because we said always read the clues out loud.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Not that one, we would have been mad at ourselves.
That's a real there's a lot of tactics that come into play, and that's a really good one, because if it is a wordplay one, that can open the door to you.
Yeah, and our captain always read out the answers on the wall for that reason.
Yeah, sensible.
Whereas
something like the PSV Eindhoven one, I was thinking it on the first clue and would have been absolutely hammering in on the second one. Just because that's kind of in my wheelhouse, and I'd have been, but it really just, as Lindsay was saying, it's, if the questions fall for you, then happy days, and if they don't, then
and if the penny drops as well, because I was sat there saying,
absolutely,
okay, Phillips, well that's Dutch. I can't remember what the S was, but Vereniging, that's in the Netherlands as well. So PSV, it's all there, isn't it? It's just penny didn't drop for me, and I really like that one. We've had a couple of comments. Miles Searle is asking, have they finished filming the entire series of University Challenge yet? Michael, how is it done?
Sure I'm allowed to answer that one.
Okay.
I'll have to check Roger Tilling to see something to that effect.
Very, very diplomatic. So you may or may not be aware, and it may or may not have actually happened. So that's fine.
Sorry.
So Miles, that may or may not answer your question. Douglas is asking or saying, looking forward to seeing the University Challenge Christmas specials and the Only Connect specials as well. So the difference, I guess, as I understand with this year, University Challenge is celebrity, kind of, although the number of people that I've heard of, I mean, they're notable, that's for sure. Whereas Only Connect is past teams coming back. So I know there's a number of teams that have been on before, and they've got some matchups. So that will be quite interesting to see those. I'm definitely looking forward to those. Some firm fan favourites coming back, if I may alliterate quite so much. So, so yeah, Mastermind. Did anybody catch Mastermind earlier?
Yeah,
I did.
I really felt for Brun in the general knowledge. I mean, it may just be it felt harder because I didn't know the answers to his, and I knew the answers to the lady one whose name I can't remember. But I just have to have done so well in his specialist subject, which again possibly I felt because it was 80s children's television. I knew some of the answers just because I'm old and I was around. It was a great specialist subject, but I felt for him, and some of them seemed to just go on and on. And I think it's the reason I could never apply. I don't think I could wait. You know, Charlie Fairhurst, casualty. I just wouldn't.
I think I'm similar in that respect.
I love that 80s kids TV set. That's just the sort of thing that if you happen to have lived through the 80s, you were just hoovering up points. It was a brilliantly chosen set, and I thought quite well pitched, and he absolutely mullered it, really. But then when it came to general knowledge, Hazel got 16, and she absolutely stormed it. A tremendous performance.
Spectacular answers in there.
Yeah, I mean, there were things like Panopticon. I thought, well, I mean, that's quite hard, quite specific. All's well ends well. She just made you could tell it was a guess.
That was a really good educated guess.
Really good. Vasco da Gama Bridge. Inertia was clearly a guess. And, you know, and it's only at the end where she got lanolin wrong. I was really, come on, get a full house on this, because you don't see that often, and she was so good. So yeah, that was a shame. And you know, and Claire came back after the Song of Ice and Fire. I tweeted
those were hard.
Well, I mean, those books are massive.
Yeah.
And if you're going to learn, you know, I don't know, 4 or 5 books that are 600 pages each, and you've got to know all of the plot points and all of the different interrelationships and quotes and whatever, that's a stinker of a subject. And you know, I felt for her because she clearly knew her subject, but just to nail that is so difficult. So,
I felt like it was a specialist subject picked genuinely on something she loved rather than something she thought I can go and learn everything about that. I think that's the difference. And I feel like as a kid watching Mastermind, it was more about people who did that. I just love this thing, so I'm going to go on a quiz and let somebody ask me about it. Whereas now it feels more like I'm going to pick a subject that I can absolutely just learn everything and go on and smash it. So I did feel really sorry for her.
Yeah, I mean, tactically, it's a subject that's really hard to get right for something like Mastermind. Will G is saying, did anybody else think that GK questions on Mastermind felt slightly more accessible? Don't know, Brendan, how did you feel about them?
Some and some, I would say. Again, I felt, I don't know, I didn't keep a tally of each round, so I don't know how I performed in each round, but I felt like some of the rounds I was getting more than in others. But again, it's everybody else's mileage is going to vary, isn't it?
Yeah.
Michael, how did you find it?
I don't know. I thought maybe I just like the same things that Hazel likes, but I thought that one was probably the best one for me as well. I'm not sure. It's the first time I've watched Mastermind actually in a while. But given I'm coming here, I should probably watch all 3 of them in the end. Because I think I'm like Lindsay. I'm sitting there looking at them, know the answer about a 10th of the way through the question, and of course, because I've come from my first experiences in quizzing being Quiz Bowl and University Challenge, where you're expected to interrupt, and I'm just thinking, why are they not interrupting? They clearly know it.
That's one of the frustrating things as a player in Mastermind, when you sit there and, you know, I was last on quite a few years ago, but even then it's like, if you prepared your subject well, you know within 4 or 5 words where the question's going, and then you're just waiting for the opportunity to dive in. And then sometimes, you know, to finish the question, and then there's another sentence, and you kind of jump in and then pull back and then answer it again. It can be frustrating.
You need to employ somebody with a hand over my mouth.
Yeah, there'd be somebody with a long stick and a muzzle, but dear. That I mean, it comes up every week on this, kind of length of questions, and probably can't really go around the houses on it, but it is something that is noted on Twitter and it's noted by contestants, etc. And I'm sure at some point it will be tackled by the team there. We've had a couple more comments. This is very self-serving of both Craig and myself. So Craig says, Canon only connect team for the next series. Please call themselves the Neologists, so that the History Boys could have a team to play in a specialist show. The History Boys being Craig, myself, and a chap called Rob Hatter. So he's blatantly making a pitch for us to go back on the show, and I wholeheartedly would agree. And if Jenny Heap is watching, I'll ask yet again to let us back on. Whether it will happen, bearing in mind we've already appeared on 2 separate series, probably a little wishful thinking. So another comment from Grace. That's just a 10th grade English class that you described memorizing about 500-600 page books. So we're talking about the selection of subjects for Mastermind. And I thought, looking at the subjects tonight, we've already said that the children's TV was quite a good one, because for a lot of people, you'd have had the knowledge by osmosis, and then you're topping up. I thought the Seabirds one was quite broad, not just being about the birds themselves, but a festival, a hunting festival or something around it.
Yeah.
So quite a lot to kind of get your head around. And then
I was going to say that's the difficulty with, you're still trying to write an interesting set, and you don't just want to be, well, which bird is this?
Which bird? Latin name, such and such.
Yeah, exactly. And then it's I kind of feel for the writers in a way of trying to pitch something slightly outside the box, and come in with not just make it 12 questions that are all absolutely the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, then it does make it more difficult to prepare for, I suppose.
Yeah.
And just in response to Grace, from the people I know who've read the books, they might only be 600 pages, but some of them feel like about 5,000, particularly when the chapters about the less interesting characters.
Oh gosh, I've read them all, and there is one of the books, I think might even be the last one, where it's like for about half the book, Daenerys stays in one city and does sod all, and it's just about that.
It is the last one.
Tedious in the extreme.
Daenerys sod all. They equal to Debbie does Dallas.
Are you going to read the next one when it finally comes out, Gareth?
Of course, I'll have to. As a completist and whatever. Particularly having seen the TV show now, to see how it's different. So no, I'll read it. Books are always
probably the one I will read, because I'm hoping he'll fix the terrible ending.
Yeah. I don't know. I think they rushed it. I mean, this isn't kind of Game of Thrones chat, but whilst we're on the subject, I do think they rushed it, and I do think they made some mistakes in that final series. But yeah, I wasn't overly appalled at how it ended. Not like some, but anyway, perhaps that just saved the question writers from having to write some controversial questions this time round. Let's just say Miles. Now this was a talking point in University Challenge. Don't you think Jeremy went a little off the wall on that Black Sabbath question? Well, I guess it adds to the show. He's different on the celeb version than he is on the normal version. And Michael, you'll be forgiven for absenting yourself if you feel you can't say anything on the matter at this point in time. But that you can't confer. That was kind of yelled at them when they were asking him questions, whether you want the name of the band or the album. And both teams said Black Sabbath. So the first team said Black Sabbath, and the second team said Black Sabbath. And it did make me think, and I guess this does come to you, Michael, rather than kind of focusing on Paxo. how much attention are you paying to the wrong answer given to the other team? Or are you too busy thinking of your right answer whilst all that's going on?
It doesn't tend to happen to Imperial very much because we're either in first or we're in first and wrong, or they're in first and right. There's very few drop things, but often, because I don't know about you guys with other things, but when I'm listening to the question, I'm thinking I've got an answer in my head and I'm sort of checking whether it's right.
Yeah.
So, for example, there was one against St Andrews, who, of course, unfortunately did slip up a lot, and I think that should have been closer than it was. And there was a question about Keith Haring, and I was thinking, well, graffiti style artist, maybe it's Basquiat, and they said Basquiat, and I thought, okay, that's wrong, and now I can't remember what the question is really asking.
So that's probably more the danger then. It's, you know, your mind's taking you to a conclusion, and then when you find that conclusion's wrong, it's can you backtrack in enough time to come up with another plausible answer?
Or if the very end of the question uses the answer you've come up with. It happened to me on the one of my first appearances of 15-1. She started asking the question, and the answer came in my head, and then the very end of the question incorporated the answer I had, and you've only got 3 seconds, and it was just completely blank.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that happens. So another name for something, and you realise, oh, I had that name. I had that on Mastermind once when I was thinking of the bends, and then it mentioned the bends right at the end of the question. They wanted caisson disease, and it's like, oh, flip it heck. That may have cost me a place in the final, but I'm not bitter all these years later. Rob says hello, everyone. Hi, Rob. Good to have you with us. So he did kind of, he was playing it up a little bit, old Paxo. The whole Bob Hope, how disgraceful to know that kind of thing. He really was.
Yeah, how could you not know Gene Autry?
I mean,
the unmistakable vocal stylings of.
When they didn't get Willie Nelson and they were going to say Johnny Cash, I was screaming at the television.
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember that these are not seasoned quizzes, and I think one of the things, there was a giveaway on University Challenge, was their conferring was just so haphazard. I think if you compare it to how the good teams like Imperial do, and how the captain corrals the information and brings it together and then decides what to put forward, there was a lot of very all over the place discussions. I thought they were never going to get Surat, for example.
But I wonder if any of them had met before they sat in the seats, because I think that's why teams do well. I'm sure it's the same with you, Lindsay, that you know who knows what roughly.
Yeah. Even though we were a team of individuals, but we spent a lot of time chatting beforehand, and then we made sure we spent the night together the night before, made sure we went and had dinner together and actually sat and kind of practiced questions and chatted through. So yeah.
I know University College London, I think it may have been last series rather than this, but their team was formed in advance because they played a team of former UCL University Challenge players, because Katie Bramwell-Stainer, who people may remember from University Challenge, but also a series-winning Only Connect team, she was on the UCL team that played against the celebs to try and get them matched up. Now, I'm not saying all of them do that, and perhaps during COVID, probably doubly unlikely. But I know some of them have done that previously. Michael, COVID obviously interrupted your series. Did you film episodes before and during COVID?
Yeah, so the first round was filmed in February. I think, that was said in an interview, so I'm okay to say that one. And that was so that's why all the first rounds had no screens, etc. And that one was weird for me because not only was it my first time being on TV, but there was an audience as well. I was sort of staring at my parents like, oh God, I can't mess this up. And then we filmed the highest scoring losing teams match and the second round match in September. And all the second round matches were in the same block. And those had the screens up and all the precautions in place. It was pretty much masks on, except for where you see us when we're sat down in our seats. And that one, there was no audience. But yeah, they had made sure everything was fine and safe. And actually, I was a lot more relaxed without all of the people and the staging up for that.
Interesting, yeah, because on a number of my TV appearances in the past, where I've had family coming along, I found that really distracted me, because I'd be thinking, are they okay? Are they going to get into the studio in time? Is there going to be a problem there? You know, and then when you get in there, you're kind of looking out for them. And actually on shows like 15 to 1, where there's no audience whatsoever, I just found it so much easier to just get on and do my job. So I absolutely get what you're talking about there with, you know, actually that there are just fewer distractions, fewer things to worry about. Just get on and play the quiz. And the screens and all of that sort of thing, earpieces, that didn't make a difference to you guys?
It didn't, and it allowed me to do something which I felt was easier, but I attracted a lot of negative publicity on the internet, that because I could hear all of my teammates without having to look at them. And Imran, who sits on my left, on your right, he has his own specialisms. And of course, if you can choose to turn to 2 people or turn to 1 person, you choose to turn to 2 people. So I could turn towards them on stuff that I knew wasn't really his stuff, and that was more Katie or Justin's stuff, and turn to him on like the hardcore physics. And so I did that. And when he had something to say, I could still hear it because of the earpieces. And everyone assumed that we'd had like a massive falling out the night before.
There you go.
Twitter does love a speculation, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
let's not really think with facts.
Brendan, have you ever had that? You know, when you've seen your show going out live and seen what people are saying?
Oh yeah. I mean, the biggest thing for me was when we did Britain's Brightest Family. Obviously, my son was in the team, who was only 13 at the time. So that opened up a whole other realm of kind of possible Twitter nightmare. And actually, there was a few fairly mean-spirited things that people had said, but most of it was fairly kind of jocular. Some of the other kids that were on the show really took a bit of a hammering on Twitter. And one of the girls in particular was, again, there were comments that were just wildly inappropriate, because she was 15. She looked older than 15. But you can kind of see where I'm going with that. And you just sort of think, wow, you know, this is midweek primetime evening TV. What are you doing? You know, why are you going onto social media to make comments like that? It's just really disheartening.
Lindsay, have you had any negative press, as it were, through Twitter and social media?
I have to say, so far we've been really lucky, and whoever has commented about us seems to like us. Well, I guess we'll see what happens after the next show. I'm always intrigued to see what it'll be. But yeah, I think the very first show, somebody shared the clip of Alan Hay winning on Perfection, I think it was, where he absolutely danced around and went absolutely mental. But he said he knew that was going to happen the minute he went on the show. I think that's probably the worst thing we've had so far. So fingers crossed it stays that way.
Michael, how's it been for you guys as well? Okay, that's
I mean, obviously my team is more diverse than a lot of teams, and that attracts a lot of stuff. And when you have someone who tries to just be themselves, then you're going to get a lot of stuff either way. The game where I was incredibly, I'd say, lucky against Exeter, and Michael O'Connor's game and Sean Webb, we've all, you know, that sort of, if you get above a certain amount of starters, you get a lot of people thinking you're the next Messiah. And I just got lucky on a couple of questions. And you have some people who really, really, really can't stand you. But what I've had has mostly been amusing. At least I found it funny, even if some of it wasn't meant to be funny, because that's the way I've taken it. But there's a lot of nefarious stuff. Especially actually, I'll bring on something, because you said last week, I wonder if they talk to each other, the contestants. And of course, we couldn't that much, but we now have, not to be not that we don't have the other teams there, but we have, because all of the teams met each other, a quarterfinalists group chat, excluding, not on purpose, the team who wins the next time, because they're both older teams and we couldn't find them on social media. But that's really nice. But there's been some stories of what people have got, and especially the female contestants is not okay. And as far as Imperial's gone, some of the stuff that she seems fine with it, but I was saying if I was in your shoes, I wouldn't be fine. And then the other way, people assume that when I confer with Katie, that I must be absolutely madly in love with her, or that we're some sort of power couple. No.
No, it's terrible. I mean, one of the things, and this is not kind of moral grandstanding from our point of view, but one of the things on All Things Quiz was, where we spotted it, we try and call it out on Twitter, because, you're going on the show and you're providing entertainment for people to watch. It's not up to them to really pick you apart for things that are kind of unrelated to the quizzing. And so, women and particularly trans contestants have had a really rough time on University Challenge in particular. I think probably more so than most shows. So we try and make sure we put out kind of statements or reply to people and kind of try and put them in their place a little bit whilst we're watching. And I do think perhaps the quiz community needs to galvanize itself a little bit more to shout those people down and kind of make them realize they're really not wanted on the Twitter feed of a show like that. But that's perhaps a discussion for another day. I suppose to lighten the mood a little bit, I remember when I was last on Only Connect, the yin and yang that I had that really kind of makes you put things in perspective was one tweet that said, Gareth Kingston must be the most intelligent person who's ever lived. And the very, very next tweet said, these fat bastards are really irritating. And it's like, there you go. It's like, we kind of got the yin and the yang here. Don't believe either side of the of what you hear. It's never as bad or never as
imposters, just the same.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of what I took from it.
Emma Kennedy got a lot of people commenting on the fact that she was whispering behind her hand.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, because you don't want them to hear you, and because you're having to talk a little bit louder because you're not leaning over. It's like, leave the woman alone. Just leave her alone. She's lovely.
People do draw some weird conclusions from things, and I've said it before. People playing these shows are focused and they're serious and they're concentrating on listening and not missing things. So what they're not trying to do is look jovial and fun. They're trying to get the next question right. And so, but people go, oh, he looks angry, or he looks this, or he looks that, and you just get so much of that. It's like, no, he's just trying to hear the question and beat the other team to the buzzer.
Yeah, I think last week I tried really hard to look less severe, because in the first, we were lucky enough to see our first episode air before we filmed our second one. So I tried really hard to be less severe, and then the minute they got the 3-pointer, my face just dropped, and that was the whole show.
For the benefit of anybody who's watching and has joined us recently, welcome. If you want to write a comment or ask a question to any of us, please put it in the YouTube comment section and it'll pop up and we'll be able to bring it up. So we've got myself, I've been on Mastermind and Only Connect, Brendan, Only Connect, and Britain's Brightest Family series champion, Lindsay, who's on the current series of Only Connect and has been on 15 to 1 and other things, and Michael, who is the captain of the awesome Imperial team on the current University Challenge series. So lots of people who you can ask those questions you've always been wanting to know the answer to. My question to you guys at the moment then is, what questions stood out to you tonight? Was there anything that particularly tickled you or you enjoyed or you thought, really? Why is that in there?
My favourite bit was the 80s Kids TV round.
100%. Yeah. Yes. Captain Zep was like, because my dad worked for the BBC, and basically his oldest friend that he was at school with also worked for the BBC and worked on that show. So I was like, oh yeah, I remember that one. And was really impressed that he got the animated one, the Danger Mouse and Duckula. I was nowhere. I was nowhere near that one, and then really surprised that he didn't get Fireman Sam.
Yeah, I didn't get Fireman.
That was pretty much the only one I recognised.
Yeah, there you go.
I didn't remember.
I work with a lot of people a bit younger, so generally I make TV references and they just look at me like I'm mental. So it was really nice to not feel. I could almost feel every other person of my age shouting the answers out across the country.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely were. The one I found really annoying for reasons I will explain was on the wall, the Wanda, Enya, Ali, Hannah one, because I remember being at a quiz. It was an afternoon team quiz at one of the monthly Grand Prix that happens on the UK circuit, and somebody asked, I think, about 5 questions where it was literally all the answer was like, it was a connection one, and what's a connection? That they're all countries missing the first letter, and I thought that was a really good idea. And I later did a much longer version for a pub quiz in which I used all of those examples, and yet tonight didn't get it. Didn't get it until the wall was resolved, and then it was then I think there may have been an expletive that was thrown out into the air. But that was annoying because should have known it. Should have known it. I've written it. I even researched Hannah Mandlikova to make sure it was the right spelling and all those sorts of things. Very, very annoying. But yeah, I thought the walls have been a little bit. I don't know. I don't know whether they're tough or the first one is tough, or because they're trying to balance the walls for the teams. That once you've seen the Wanda, Enya, Ali, Hannah, you then find it easier to score Ordinary, Asset, Oxet, Eagle in the second wall. So I don't know really whether it is quite so.
I do feel like the second round walls stepped up a lot from the first round wall because we got full marks on our first round one, and I know I talked about the feeling of dread. I am still feeling it, even though it was aired last week. So I think I'd be interested to see what the other two, the next two are like, and then also obviously we've got our second chance one to see again. Did they do those any different, or were they just as hard? I just love it. I'm glad
it's brilliant.
Over Christmas, every day over Christmas. It's gonna be brilliant.
It's the best experience ever going on in a Connect. So Michael, once you get a chance, do it.
Well, it's the next one in my line of vision. But I'm currently thinking about who I'd want to ask my teammates, because actually my favourite part of Quizzy Monday is actually the missing vowels round, and I will sort of sit quiet for a lot of Only Connect, I feel, if I'm on the show, and then I think the missing vowels round, if it goes my way, will be my time, because actually probably it's the closest thing to the buzzer quiz, which is the thing I'm most familiar with, but it also just works with my mind. And some of the other ones, like the Rwanda one, as soon as it was explained to me, I was like, right.
But you practice and you watch old episodes, and you build that muscle memory for just the way you think about things. And I've probably watched every episode twice in total for preparing for auditions and stuff, and you just get into the habit of doing it. But even apply on your own, they'll put you with people who are good at the other things.
There's an alchemy that you've got to try and find, because when you're watching it at home on your own, you're 1/3 of a team, and you haven't got somebody muttering something else to spark you off that might, or you kind of say something, word association, and that inspires something in somebody else. And it's amazing how often it comes from piecing bits together rather than just everybody knowing stuff. So it is that alchemy. Brendan, you went on with your brother, Chris, and I can't remember who the other member of your team was.
Dan Fullard.
Yeah,
so I think a lot of quizzes will know.
Yeah, runs.
The name.
Yeah,
he does Life After Mastermind and runs pub quizzes up in the northeast.
Yeah, Quiz Addict blog, I think, and he's on Twitter as Quiz Addict. Yeah, so that's a good team. So quizzing with your brother, what's that like on TV? Any more pressure? Any less pressure? Recrimination?
With it's some of it is sort of thinking, what are we going to know? What are we not going to know? Is there too much overlap? To the extent that in our family, if we were playing games, they would always separate me and Chris, because we're so kind of on that wavelength that it's it's kind of not fair for things like like Pictionary and charades and stuff like that. But yeah, that was one of the things. I know it's off topic for today's, but that was one of the things with Britain's Brightest Family, was that the series we were on, the format was that you didn't buzz in for yourself; you had to buzz a teammate in. And again, it's looking at and going, oh well, Chris will know this, or Alex will know this, or and that's really crystallizes the importance of knowing your team's strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I've got a few comments building up here, mostly from my former erstwhile teammate and friend Craig, who has said Gareth got off lightly. When we were on Only Connect, I got called a part-time Jabba the Hutt tribute act. I mean, come on, part-time. Yeah, you kind of have to laugh at it. Grace is obviously being very supportive of Craig, but I think Craig kind of takes it, like I do. I don't know you. I therefore really don't care about your opinion. So say what you want. So he said, I smiled, retweeted it, and used it in my Twitter bio. If you think that people will be nasty without actually knowing you, I can only imagine what they're right if they did know me. Oh, Craig. Craig's a good guy. And actually, Craig has reminded me that the missing letters thing, it was actually one of his. He wrote that round at that Northampton Grand Prix team quiz. He says our afternoon quiz wasn't all just smutty questions. Admittedly, it was what people wanted and remembered, which is true. And good music rounds as well, Craig. And the presentation of Craig and Danielle was top drawer. But hopefully we'll get those days back again. Miles has asked a question. Did the current Imperial team feel the pressure of being series champion last time? Going in, reigning champions, you got, something to live up to there. Is there pressure?
Yes, it's too much. And I think, actually, if you want the single reason why our first round match to winning next to, essentially you've just answered it. When you're on TV for the first time, you're the youngest team in the competition, and you've come off the back of not only the team who won it, but they've had the largest winning score in years and years. We were never
and also, without wanting to butter up my former QLL team captain, but the standout player in that series as well by quite some margin.
Yeah.
I mean, Brandon is just a ridiculously good quizzer. And put it out there for everybody to see all the way through that series. So hats off to you guys for coming in on the tailcoats of that team, because pretty big boots.
Yeah. But I thought, especially after our first episode aired, and there were loads of comments about Brandon, along with all the stuff about one's mannerisms. There was just then Brandon will be disappointed. The Imperial team must be kicking themselves, and then of course Neil Ferguson had to go and do his stuff. So we got all of the funny. I predicted Imperial would score 285,000 points. And then I thought, especially having lost and being able to survive by some miracle, I thought, look, we're not that team. We're our own team. I'm just going to do the best I can. And actually, even though we're not, we're nowhere near as good as that team, I'd say, I don't want this to sound bad. I'd say we're perhaps, I don't know if you agree with me, but I'd say we're more fun to watch than them, because they were all so serious. And, everything was I felt more tense almost watching them than I did watching my own stuff. And I think we know that we're not as good, and we're able to have a bit more fun with it. Especially on the rounds where we don't know anything, and it's painfully obvious we don't know anything, and we're just
fun has to be the main thing. And losing can often be a good thing, because it takes away the fear of losing. We lost last week. We went into our next match just saying, this could be it. We could be out now. Let's just have an absolute ball. And it was one of the most fun times we've had. Both the two teams were in the same boat. And we just said, let's just go and absolutely laugh our asses off. And we did, both on camera and off in particular. We had a bit of a period where one of the buzzers was broken, and we were all just chatting away and laughing. It was great. And I think that can make a difference.
I think the moment that you start dwelling on what's at stake and actually stop thinking about just playing the game, you're kind of halfway out the door at that point, because it is all about the game. And actually, if you could just treat it like any other game, like I think in any sport, the best players, they don't, it doesn't matter who they're playing against. They'll approach it the same way. They'll play it the same way. They won't let the occasion get to them. And it's easier said than done. And that's why they're the great players. But it's the thing. It's like not letting an error get to you. And And I used to be one of the most boring opening batsmen in cricket, but one of the reasons why I guess was when I did make an error, I didn't let it get to me, and I treated the next ball as if it was the first ball I'd faced, and I was just I would be unruffled. And I tried to take that approach into quiz, and sometimes it works, sometimes it didn't. But I think that is the mindset to have. Michael, you didn't feel kind of that legacy pressure looking over you, but as a series has progressed, do you start to think, we're in with a shot here? Could we do this?
I don't know. We did think about that off screen. I didn't think we did to a certain. I'm treading on very dangerous waters here. Yeah, I'll stop myself saying, because my comments will only make sense when you've seen the quarterfinals. However, few or many Imperial has.
Well, let's.
You can ask me it afterward, but I think I'm not. You can only go on once now, can't you? Because University Challengers once only, unless I do some weird maths and get invited back to the thing. But so I knew it was just the once, and that was it. And I'm not going to be on TV or quizzing for a while, so may as well make the best of it and have fun. And actually, I think the last Imperial team, they know the other people from their series, but of course, all the people on the other teams, you all have a very strong shared interest and shared experience.
Yeah.
And I think the Imperial team will come away with quite a lot of, for now, acquaintances, but I hope in the future, friends, especially the Exeter team, as it was so close. We've had several Zooms because, of course, we couldn't meet up in person. And as soon as they lost, they were sort of out the door because of the COVID protocols, and we were sort of back up into the green room, knowing we'd face St Andrews, so we were shit scared. Pardon my French. But afterwards, we're becoming closer and closer friends, and at the end of the day, that's got to count for something.
It does bind you together. We have an Only Connect alumni group on Facebook, which was born out of the season 10 teams, which was my team and a few others, thinking, oh, let's just get together for a drink, which we did. And then the next time we organised it, we thought, oh, let's see if Jenny and Hal and the producers can come, and let's just make it a more open invite. And the next thing you know, it's an event that has the annual reunion has 100+ people coming to it, and it turns out to be a very boozy affair. So I think there is that kind of connection. And then also when you meet other people who've been through it, and you have a kind of you recognize something in those war-torn faces.
The 1,000-yard stare.
Yeah, indeed. So that's good. We had a comment from Ozan. Don't know what you're talking about, and just joined, but I get cool vibes from you. So yeah, well, glad you found some cool vibes from us. I'm not sure we know what we're talking about half the time, but that's good.
With enough confidence, it's fine.
Yeah. Will G enjoyed the Heracles question, as it's nice to see great quizzes caught out by something seemingly simple when you hear the answer. And it was one of those things of, this has got to be someone who did something in something. Was it a TV series? Was it a film?
I was fuming.
Yeah,
I was fuming because that is absolutely smack in the middle of my wheelhouse, and I didn't spot it. I was furious with myself. Yeah.
He said presumably they'd have allowed Hercules. Yes, I mean, because the Roman and the Greek mythology on that story is going to be the same, so they would have allowed it. But they did have a couple of adjudications that they made during the day on Only Connect. There was one about the toes of a lion, and there was and somebody posted that went to a lengthy adjudication. Somebody posted that on Twitter. And then there was one about the Labour MPs' connection on the wall. So, they do take these things seriously. They do try and ensure fair play and the right answer and eligible answers being allowed. So definitely, I think they would have allowed Hercules, even if she'd have made some sort of snappy little quip about Greek mythology or something, but they'd have allowed it. Were there any other questions that jumped out at you? I'm just looking through my notes to see. I thought there was one really great buzz by Goswami on a stats thing, the letter that can represent a whole bunch of things, and that kind of made me think, oh, that's like genuine university challenge. That's really sharp and really good. So I was impressed by that. I like the logos set.
Yeah, those were good.
I thought was quite nice.
And quite current. It's nice to see stuff that happened in 2020 come up.
Yeah, so that was really good. The attractions, the Paxos, no, astonishing, it's Durham, was another of my highlights of his cantankerousness.
I was really hoping Barnard Castle would come up. I'm going to
Indeed. Well, we threw Barnard Castle into our Quiz Omnium speed quiz as a kind of what is the official seat of the Bishop of Durham, or whatever it is. Auckland Castle, Durham Castle, Barnard Castle, just to get that little joke. But there was some fairly standard kind of only connect sequences, like the Canadian provinces, and then thrown in you've got the Kardashian children, which was really nice, because I was going, well, that's Psalm 23, and that's in Chicago, and that's Roger Moore playing the Saint. Penny didn't drop again. I didn't have a great night watching that, but I do like the fact that
they're the only team who I've heard say we rehearsed that and it came up.
Yeah,
and I remember them coming back into the green room, because we were all there at the same time, and saying that they'd had that question. Yeah, even though I should remember that, I still didn't get the answer. Straight over my head.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, interestingly, one of the things that comes out of this, Haringey, Wetherby, Battersea. How would you pronounce Wetherby, Lindsay?
Wetherby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it works in one accent dialect, but doesn't necessarily work. Yeah, Wetherby. You know, I'm not sure.
I would imagine most people who live in Wetherby would pronounce it how I do. So
it's not the first time.
A Scottish person and an Irish person, so we could all have ended up saying it completely different and still not Wetherby.
Yeah, because they've had that before on Only Connect, where there's been things related to kind of southern pronunciation, particularly when it be grass rather than grass or whatever. You know, it kind of all of a sudden it doesn't work. So they have to be very careful on those ones which are about the sounds of pronunciations. But
we get quite angry when we watch the chairs and there's a question on London and Brad can't understand why they don't know it. It's like, because there's more to the world than London. There's a lot of other places. We don't all know which tube stops are which and things like that. And I've spent a lot of time in London for work and I still don't know half the stuff. But it's always that, really? Yes, there are places outside M25. Yeah.
You know, it's all right. I will learn your bus routes and your tube lines as long as you learn Bedfordshire bus routes. Yeah, it's like, yes, which do I catch to get from Flitwick to Bedford? Oh, you get the Saturn J5. Okay, that's good. Get other people facing that, I'll be happy. Another one I liked was just because it appealed to me was Boom, the Bitton Concord.
How impressive you knew it was the Venga Boys just by the picture. I couldn't have told you.
No, that was a great spot.
Yeah.
It felt to me like a question where somebody was probably going to be going for a sequence of a boom, 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 boom.
I think they've had that one.
There's certainly people periodically do that as a musical sequence, don't they?
Yeah.
John increasing numbers of booms. Yeah.
And Out Here Brothers.
Yeah.
So we are now coming to the end of the year in terms of quiz. There's a few more specials, but have there been any particular highlights for you this year in TV quizzing that you can think of, aside from being on it, Lindsay, I guess, and Michael?
I just miss on, even if I hadn't been on it being on telly and everything Victoria does just amuses me immensely. I know people moan about the openings and the closings, but I absolutely love them. So even if I wasn't on it, that would have been making my year.
Yeah. Michael, I guess it's probably been. I mean, let's face it, we've not been doing a huge amount else, most of us.
Yeah.
So being on it probably your highlight.
Yeah, and I mean, like a lot of people, I put a lot of work into it, so it did rather take over my life for a long time. But yeah, and also being able to relate to all of the contestants on previous series and this series. Yeah, and actually, this is the first time I've watched Mastermind in a couple of years. Today is actually the first I've watched all three back to back, with or without Nigella.
Damn you, Nigella!
I'm not sure whether it works for me. I prefer to spread them out during the week, but it was fun as a one-off. But actually, I'd say Only Connectors really growing on me, especially as Lindsay said, Victoria. Hopefully one day for me in the near future before I lose the buzzer pressing ability.
I think you've got a few years before you need to worry about that. Brendan, anything for you that stood out this year?
Again, I think it's always occasionally you just I'm struggling to think of an example now, but not necessarily like a whole series or a whole show, but just occasionally somebody comes out with an answer or somebody gets something, and it's particularly, I think it makes a difference if you know the person and you know that that's something that's not necessarily their strong suit or whatever. Or you see like this evening's one, what was her name, Hazel, a few of her sort of Hail Marys that came in that were Hail Marys is probably ungenerous, but it's certainly educated guesses that she threw out there that came in for her, and you just thought, wow, and just you could see and I think it harks back to what you were saying earlier on about feeling like you didn't have anything to lose. Lindsay, you were saying about that when you were in your second round and whatever, and she said that at the end of the show. She said, well, I just sat in the chair and cracked on because I thought, well, I might as well enjoy myself now. Boy, did she enjoy herself.
She really did.
And I think there have been really good standalone things. So I think lots of people have talked about the Walruses and that missing vow round. That was amazing to watch. And also, actually, the Durham versus Edinburgh second round match. It wasn't the questions, but just how it was. It looked like it would be a runaway on University Channel. And then all of a sudden, Durham were coming back. And of course, we've met the Durham team and they're all really lovely. And then just that it got closer and closer and that Roger Tilley was getting more and more excited. And I watched it with the new team to see how they'd get on. And I said to them beforehand, by the way, this is my favorite episode ever.
And just on that, because it was one thing I wrote down to kind of ask you. Earlier in an episode, you have quite a lot of conferring time. And then obviously later in the episode, Paxo hurries you on. Roger Tilling sounded much more urgent. Do you get given guidance on how long you've got for conferring, or do they just kind of organically give you longer earlier and then start hurrying you later?
I don't remember any guidance. There's always a chance I wasn't paying enough attention. But no, it feels like as you're going on, you do speed up anyway, regardless of whether Jeremy Paxman's pushing you on or not.
We've got just a couple more comments before we close. Apparently, this is like the Newfoundland debate about pronunciation. So, Grace, I'd love to hear a bit more about that. But
well, I'd say Newfoundland, so that's possibly what it is, because that's not what you just said.
Well, Newfoundland.
Yeah.
Newfoundland or Newfoundland. Yeah.
Well, Newfoundland is what they say and come from away, so I'm following that.
Yeah, me too.
Definitely whether be.
Where are you from, Will, though? Where are you from?
Well, there you go. Yeah, that's true. Will, where are you from? So
let's not even start a conversation about what you call a bread cake or a bap or whatever it'll be on.
That could be a whole hour on. Is it a balm? Is it a bap? Yeah. Cobble.
It's cob.
Cob. So yeah. Well, I think it's been. I think for me, just the fact that we had these shows is actually the win from the year.
Yeah.
Because with COVID and with all the restrictions, putting together a show when all the staff will have been working remotely, dealing with all the adjustments they had to make, keeping everybody safe, from the crew to the contestants, and delivering that high quality. For me, I guess that's probably my highlight. Yeah, something that, we'll look back at this year, and it'll be odd when we start seeing clips with the perspex screens up and whatever. But I don't think anybody who's done a show, Only Connect, Mastermind, University Challenge, will probably take for granted the hard work that goes on behind the scenes after all of that.
Absolutely,
now.
Yeah.
They've really pulled out the stop. So I think that's kind of the big thing. And Grace, she loves Come From Away and just wants to put it out there. And I would. It is a truly amazing musical, and I hope we get to see it in the West End again soon. Well, look, everybody, thank you very much for joining me. It's been another enjoyable chat. Hopefully have you guys back on again. Michael, definitely when you can talk about stuff, it would be really good to get the full perspective on that. And likewise, Lindsay and Brendan, I mean, anytime you want to come on, then that would be really good. Good to see you, to chat about the episodes we've had, or indeed anything else. Oh, hang on. We have one more question before we go. This is Rob. I have a big question to ask, if possible. I'd like to ask the panel if they think there will be a bigger, more popular version of shows such as Only Connect or University Challenge, for example, that people will ultimately see as the #1 quiz show. Wow. #1 quiz show. I mean, that's probably should have started with that one, really.
Another hour.
I think passions change. Mastermind once upon a time was the thing. I think now for purists, it's probably University Challenge. But then Only Connect offers something completely different. So I don't know. I don't know if something could come along and really top all of that.
I think as well, you're always slave to the format, and somebody who performs really well under one format could be. I mean, the glaring one on that was Pat going on Only Connect and just not seeming to get a handle on the question at all, like the format, and it just goes to show that depending on the format and how the questions are structured and what it's asking about is it's going to bring some people to the fore in one and other people to the fore in another.
I think the good thing is, no matter what format somebody comes up with or what comes, there's a massive community of people all willing to try it out.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll invent it, we'll all come, we'll sit on it, we'll all go on it and enjoy it. So bring them on. I need to win some money.
We will definitely be there. So yeah, just a few things then to close off. Craig says Merry Christmas, everyone. As does Grace, happy holidays and a very happy New Year. And yeah, from me, thank you to you guys. Oh, Neil Weatherby. Controversial. Or Weatherby. So yeah, for me, thank you very much for coming on the panel. It's been great to chat. Everybody who's watched, thank you very much. And if you're watching on catch up, congratulations on getting this far. And thanks to everybody who's kind of supported and watched All Things Quiz this year. It's only been going a few months, and it's been really great. So please keep in touch. Tell us what you want. Keep feeding back. Keep watching these things, and we'll keep making them. So have a wonderful Christmas. Rob says, Merry Christmas all. Thank you for another fantastic addition to the channel. Cheers, Rob. Yeah, have a great time. And above all, stay safe, because these are dark times, and we'll hopefully come through them and unscathed the other side. And our quizzing will be a little bit more carefree in the future, we hope. So happy Christmas and happy New Year to everybody. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Gareth.
Nice one.
Cheers. And thank you for having me, Gareth.
Thanks. Cheers.